Welcome, it's the Crypto Sniper. How are you doing? An update again. As we've been talking, we feel very bullish Ethereum, and I want to do a kind of a short form vid, if I can, for you. That will just make one key point, which I think many people are missing, and that we've made very clear with our community, and that is the following. This is a chart. Let's have a look at the chart. These are two charts. In fact, I put one below the other. I'll show you them in full form in a minute. Let's see if we can just get a picture, actual size. It's not too fit to screen. That's about as good as we can get. Let's see if we can make it a tiny bit bigger. So what are you looking at? You're looking at BTC on the top. On the top is Ethereum with Bitcoin. And at the bottom, our much discussed Bitcoin dominance chart. Now, we've said a couple of times when we did our updates on the Bitcoin dominance saying, one of these days that alt run's coming, you know, that one. Yeah, so we said that has broken, and that is a key move for us. Generally. So let's just get our Koki pen and highlight it for you. One of these days, he said, yep, we were early twice, which means wrong. But we are definitely positioned on it there as the break on that long-term falling wedge grinding down, Bitcoin dominance. Again, I'll show you these in bigger form. I just wanted to put these two charts under each other. Now, some of you will say, wow, they should look very similar. There's reasons why they should look very similar. They do, but there's a couple of aspects that are slightly different, and that's what's going to make the point for me. This is Ethereum, Bitcoin, both on the monthly time frame, monthly BTC on the top, Bitcoin dominance monthly on the bottom. Now, of course, we invert the chart because it helps make the comparison more clear for you. And we do like to invert charts generally. It makes it tends to remove bull bias. On Bitcoin dominance, because we've been expecting a turn, we're actually playing on your bull bias to get you to accept this going up, because more people find it hard to see something breaking down than they get to see it up. So we put them back to back. They both should be moving upside. And we point out that on the macro BTC, you have a massive first impulse, then the big pregnant belly that went quite convex, low vol, and then it accelerated, that's convexity, into a final low that didn't run that low. And then you got a very violent turn, and you're actually quite well on your way to rectifying that. So Ethereum was a chronic underperformer, and during that same period, general BTC dominance. Now, Bitcoin is largely measured against the biggest cap tokens. They're the biggest contributors. There's a weighting of all cryptos, technically, that are semi-serious cryptos that will be weighted against Bitcoin in Bitcoin dominance. So it will be Bitcoin against total, but minus Bitcoin's contribution to total. So it will be measured against all the others. And we were the ones saying, listen, you're probably going to get a turn in this box area at some point, given the turning point here. And we've also been the one that said Bitcoin will fall, not very popular with the Bitcoin maximalists. Bitcoin will eventually fall to the 20s and low 20s, and then beyond that could even taper further in total contribution to the total market cap. That that's around 26-25% up top there. That's a general target on a prediction of an upside move. Now, I actually think this gets a bit higher. I think it gets into the 40s. So I think that's quite a conservative draw. And I think that goes more towards 24, 22. Remember, this scale is getting lower the higher you get, because it's a inverted Bitcoin dominance chart. Now, so to put two charts and say, hey, look how similar this is, there's commonalities. There's lots of correlation, of course. So let's talk about the minor differences as to how. And there's a couple of quick takeouts. First of all, when Bitcoin was measured against the general alt market, there was a bit more of an initial fall in the bear market. Ethereum held up better. And then there was a steady grind of quite low volatility lower. Over here, we phony held up a little bit better, only to staircase and then to roll into a far steeper capitulation. That points to the era where people started to talk about the shorts on Ethereum. By the way, this is not an assessment of project. In fact, we rarely do that. We look at charts and look at relative strength as per what the market is saying. Many people tell you Solana better, ADA better, all of them. There's lots of looky-likeys in the Ethereum space that will be cheaper, better, faster, who knows. This is nothing about the merit of that. This is what the market dictates. To us, the Mag 7 of the stock market, in fact, you can include the top 10, are, as I've already mentioned, 40% of the total S&P 500. We spoke about in a live stream, you could be with the spoiled kids with the trust funds that are going to be successful in business because they're already starting with a couple of $1 billion and they've got all the best advisors around them. They're in that room, the top 10, and the 490 others have to really toil to have a chance to ever get into the 10 people room, the smart, the gifted, the rich, that's starting already with skills, the really focused, etc. Statism of crypto tokens is going to be a thing. Those that are dropping the surveillance grid over you are going to win. In other words, all corporations that are crowding out the bulk of the investment, thanks to ETFs brought to you by BlackRock. Yay, BlackRock, so cool. Woohoo. Have crowded all the money into the mega corps, and the mega corps are getting government contracts. So it's a virtual little corporate fascist loop. And I'm here to tell you that the crypto total market caps are very much the same. The ones that are part and parcel and statist and will be bringing the new financial order that the controlling elements want are the ones that are going to go up more than Joe Schmo's small cool idea that he wants to do on crypto. The capital will crowd out there because people want to make money and they also want to back the known winner that was pre-anointed. And that's my take on Ethereum. It's a known winner regardless of all its probable faults, its expensiveness, etc., and many other things in terms of its merits versus others. They've decided already. By the way, that doesn't mean XRP isn't, XLM isn't, and a whole bunch of other tokens doing different parts of different things, playing different roles, Hashgraph, etc., etc. In fact, most of the new ISO version ones are that because they are wanting their hat in the ring to become part of that anointed circle. So what we can see is that Ethereum initially held up better and then performed far more poorly into this than the general alt market that fell hard early and then grounded lower. Okay, how useful that is, I don't know. It may not be specifically that useful. But the big observation out of this chart is that this is just an early dawn on Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance is actually still quite high. However, when you compare the scale here of the move of FBTC since, it has bottomed, turned, and is moving far more than the rest of that which is measured against Bitcoin. And that's where the little difference comes in. And that's why we are talking about the overweighting in collateral potentially in Ethereum. It won't necessarily have the absolute highest number, but as we showed in the stream that was rudely interrupted, apologies for that if you're part of that, you probably got one of the highest numbers on the last 7 days out of Ethereum. Let's go and show it to you. Last 7 days, Ethereum 27%, you've beaten Bitcoin, you've beaten XRP, you've beaten Binance, you've beaten Solana, you've beaten Doggy, you've beaten, but for Chainlink, you've beaten all of the top 10 in performance by doing 27%. You've come second to Chainlink and you've beaten the next 10 that follows. All the way down, 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 down. There's no 127. You have to go to number 26 on the list, which is not a place I typically hang out, by the way, before you find someone else who's done more than 27. So that doesn't mean it's the absolute highest. What it does mean for the volatility adjusted risk and the pullbacks in between, because smaller tokens that throw out massive pumps often have violent moves and up and down thrashing, that Ethereum on a volatility adjusted basis and then add the liquidity or ability to potentially put on a leveraged trade shows that actually it was the best thing to be in. Link aside, and even potentially including Link, it probably was the best one to hold. Lots of liquidity, well traded, easy to get as collateral, pledge as collateral, and do a moderate leverage trade on continuation structures, which we just happen to specialize in, called the HVF method. And during alt season, you get a lot of them. And that allows you unique opportunities when risk is really pinched to get in with a little bit of extra size with a tight stop so that you can super perform in those upside moments and then tax back down into your blue pot, your unleveraged investment holding for, say, Ethereum as a blue pot. None of what I'm saying is advisory. It's just an idea of how we have typically traded the alt market, and you too can do the same by hitting the link below. That's right. Book a call and chat to us about maximizing your alt run. So the takeouts from this diagram that I was showing you is the alt run has started because Ethereum said so. That's why it's so goddamn important. It started to move because Ethereum primarily moved. XRP had moved a bit before. It didn't move the needle enough when it wasn't followed by the others. It doesn't have the same market cap size as Ethereum does. And now that Ethereum is moving, you can see it more violently against Bitcoin than you're seeing the Bitcoin dominance reversal. So they're very similar things, but one is exclusively Ethereum versus Bitcoin. The other is Bitcoin versus the whole job lot. And what that tells us is the rest of the whole job lot, excluding Ethereum, hasn't rallied nearly as much. That's why that has moved that much in percentage terms, and this has moved this much. What that means is it's a leader, and that's quite typical of alt runs. The money comes down the stack of the chosen ones. It starts with the reserve asset. That's why gold was moving. And the nearest thing to a reserve asset in crypto certainly is Bitcoin. We're having a debt-based collapse. Everyone's focused on the reserve asset. Now we're focusing on the actual money system. We're looking at the next cab in the rank. By market cap that is actually going to serve that, there's a focus on that level. And that is why with treasury buying and other people wanting to do the micro strategy type thing for Ethereum, maybe for the ETFs, Ethereum is going to be bought up and made more liquid. That means market cap go up, 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 more available, more money, more circulation. So this is just the natural order of things, and these charts are just showing you that that time is now, and you're already seeing Ethereum outperform. You're already seeing it outperform. That means it's outperforming in general, on average, on a weighted basis, more than the rest of the alt market right now. So that means it's probably doing better. And when you go back to the crypto cap numbers and you look at it, only Link has surpassed it in the 7 days. Now, 7 days is 7 days. It's not the last 2 months. There's quite a few months baked in it. You can see the last 2 months in actual fact. And I'll take you to the actual charts now that we don't have to compare them back to back. You'll see right here as I clean my face that the last 2 months have been particularly strong. So there was a stirring, there was a little pennant, and then literally from July into August. So we're anticipating a strong move. And where do we think that would potentially top out? Well, you're at 0.017. That means 1.7% by value of a Bitcoin at the low of this, call it the tariff tantrum, the April, this waiting for the alt market moment after quite a capitulative sell-off by Ethereum. Worse, funny enough, than its peers, the rest of the alt market. So there was a period where Ethereum was particularly underperforming. In fact, we cussed it and mentioned it quite a few times when we were talking about the XRP trade, how it's been a sleeper. And that was that period quite back down there. Now it is an outperformer, and it's clear to see in the charts. So the conclusion is, number one, the alt run is here because the next cab on the rank, the biggest market cap, is now showing it to be the case and outperforming Bitcoin. Great. That means it's also doing bigger 7-day numbers than Bitcoin and many of the other alts. It's the primary focus for now. Remember, being in the right tokens at the right time and having a strategy where you accept and pivot, utilizing technical analysis to confirm notions that you might have seen from previous bull markets and alt runs that does tell you that the money tends to drain down through the big market caps first. So who might be next? Well, don't jump to that gun, but it may well be XRP. But first we need the Ethereum run. At the total end of target, and this might be more than one full cycle away, you would get up to possibly near to 8%, maybe even before you have a small rest. And at the very end of a target being made, possibly in a following cycle, you could find yourself with a lot higher Ethereum. Maybe at that point there may be a flippening if this HVF is going to play out as we suspected would, and why we have said maximalism on Bitcoin will see them be very disappointed in the later years, even though they've had it all their own way till recently. The alt run will be big, and the key tokens that do things beyond digital gold are actually going to get bigger in the long run, in our opinion. That again is not news maxis are going to like, but we continue to see the chart doing exactly what we predicted. You will recognize that the upside down the BTC dominance chart, which is also the alt-dom chart, we've been calling many weeks, months for it to turn, but that in the long run, Bitcoin falls to in the 20s and later potentially lower still. In other words, there's a lot of big tokens that are going to get very, very valuable in the statist realm. Stay in the big caps. If you've watched this channel, the other point that we've made, so we've said alt run is on, we've said Ethereum is confirming that, we've said the trickle down by market cap is the wisdom, and we're showing it technically. We've also said to you that statism and the crowding out of the money into the big chosen ones that will be serving a purpose, even when they fail and their systems go down, often like Solana, if it's going to be, it's going to be, that you should be in them. This entire Crypto Sniper channel can be described as never playing outside of the top 25. Most of what we've discussed have been in the top 10. That is how we've helped make you, even whilst free, wealthier by being in the big ones, because the capital crowds out into the majors, the chosen ones. It is just like the top 10, that is 40% of the stock market, and the 490 in the other room only add up to 60. That's right. 10 bigger, or almost bigger than 490, not entirely, but probably will get there in due course. You will face similar dynamics in a more extreme way, and there will be absolute losers that are pure fluff, that were never chosen. They were little pet boy projects for small, little known people that have no real connections with people that make the real decisions about where the money flows. If you want to build wealth, that is why this channel has always said to you, we cover the top 25 with the highest focus on the biggest market cap. We can never be spamming or scamming you. We can't own them and pump them and dump them like people have done on unknown new listings that they were given. We are based in integrity and principle. Second of all, liquidity is always in your favor. You can get in, you can get out. Leveraged options judiciously by the smart that have real method and understanding and placement for stops, and are of the principle that really gets asymmetric reward, for which the season is right here, right now. Never a better time to hit that link and book a call with us. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Those are the conclusions we've come to. That is how we've been guiding you in principle. This is the area we have chosen to focus, and we have the trading method that is the absolute king of sting in alt run season. Continuation shall be your friend. You will get a multitude of upside HVS, and you will see the moment at which pivot, with the benefit of targets, that the next cab in the queue is going to get a disproportionate amount of the capital that will see its market cap accelerate. Most important and not least, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. Market cap market cap. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. Your high water mark, we are far better at others at saying it's time to be concerned about the way of the world, because we understand through 360-degree analysis what's going on in the dollar, the debt, and every other market if a demand-destroying event is looking like it's coming away, or when potentially the bull market might end. We've already done a lot of cycle work. We'll be sharing that in the community. You can find out why. Possibly you might have a longer cycle, but why, and how you'll be able to spot the top. Also, Ethereum's current structure, not against BTC, but on its own, why we think that ETH, it's going off the screen at the moment, that this larger I'm going F this, F that. Sorry about that. Let's try spit the lyrics a little cleaner, shall we? This particular upside HVF setup, which is a tiny bit ugly because of this lengthy grind, which we think had quite a bit to do with shorters and problems and lack of news for Ethereum. This lengthy grind is the equivalent of the first cup gold nugget that you got in Bitcoin that saw a mega move. Don't forget, you traded as low as 4K in CV19 and ended at 69. 4K to 69. That is a great opportunity. We feel that Ethereum is in the equivalent of this and will probably have a target just around the 14,000 marks. You can see how and why we get to that also through booking in the community, and why you can trade inside that while being invested on a blue pot basis and have very moderate leverage, all on a non-advisory basis for those that take responsibility for their own outcomes. This is a great moment, a great time. This is your update from the Crypto Sniper. Hit us up with a thumbs up and a like and all that stuff the other YouTubers hassle you with non-stop about doing. You can do it for us, we'd appreciate it. But otherwise, if you don't, you don't. Thanks for your support anyway. We'll catch you next time.
Tired of profit wipeouts and blown accounts from following trade signal groups and other YouTube channels? Looking for a better way to trade, reduce your stress, and minimize your risk? Become a skilled technical analyst and see the charts and markets in a new light using the successfully proven HVF method by Francis Hunt, while being surrounded and supported by a principled, structured, and experienced community. Enjoy a constructive learning environment while practically trading markets, supported by a bespoke platform run through browser and app, specifically designed to teach and engage you whilst learning and growing as the markets move. This is not a Telegram or Slack signal group. All trade ideas are based on a proprietary technical analysis process honed over decades, which is the HVF method, leading to trade ideas with fast-moving breakouts and tight stops, exact entries and exits, nuanced interim considerations, and ultimately, strong rewards. Submissions are graded and scored by Francis for potential high-quality setups, and we provide bespoke tools to help get the job done properly and with precision. Over time and with focused effort, you'll begin to look at charts and price action just like Francis. Community updates every day by Francis and our 3 webinars a week provide a 360-degree approach, which are presented by our experienced team of trade leaders to spot potential trades. We're a community of self-actualized individuals spanning the globe and active 24/7, 365. The premium community provides a warm, supportive, and cooperative place for people willing to listen, participate, contribute, and to learn. We've changed thousands of traders' lives. Transform your approach to trading now. Transform your life. Book an introductory call with us on the link below.